Hello and welcome to another part of my dive into the ACOTAR series. In this video, we're going to be finishing ACOTAR, book 1 in the series. So we're going to be going over chapters 24 to 46. That is a lot. Now I am going to remind you that this is not a recap, this is a deep dive. So if I think that certain parts of the story does not answer or is not relevant to the specific things that we are looking for in this dive, I am not going to mention them. If you want more discussion that I am not going to give in this video for ACOTAR, I do have a book talk specifically for this video, and that does cover a lot of Under the Mountain stuff, which I will not be covering in this video. Let's get into it. um, at the end of the video, we are going to be talking about how many times Feyre lies, how many times she's mean, how many times Nesta is mean, how many times is Feyre perceived as mean or disrespectful. That last one I kind of stopped doing. I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm only human. I forgot to do it. So I might just take that one out for the next video. Or I might keep it. We'll see what happens. I am not on the second book. I'm not currently reading it at the time of filming this video. I am on Assassin's Blade. If you forgot or didn't see the last video, I believe, on this, or it might have been the yapping video. Anyways, I am going to be doing a whole read of the Sarah J. Maas universe because all of them, from what I have been told, are connected. So I'm doing a real reading order of it, which I have changed since the last video because I decided I want to do a tandem read with Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. One of the two, sorry. I'm not looking at it, so I can't remember what it's called. But I want to do a tandem read of those two. That is the difference or um, little correction with that. Anyways, let's get into it. So, let's talk about chapters 24 and 25. These two chapters I'm kind of going to push together because what I want to talk about is the same thing in it. For chapter 24, we see Alice's glamour is gone. She didn't even recognize Alice. She's seeing a lot of other people there. Their glamour, so that Feyre wouldn't see them, are gone. And also, there was like a message from the Night Court, not a pleasant one. I will throw that one in there because it does get brought back up in chapters, in chapter 26 and maybe potentially further on, so I will mention that here. Chapter 25, there was a summer solstice, and then Lucian's glamour, once she has the fairy wine, goes away. And then she spends the rest of the night with Tamlin. So there was chapter 24 and 25. The thing that I'm mentioning is simply glamours are starting to go away for her. Let's talk about chapter 26 because if we're talking about our trackers and the things that we are looking for, chapter 26 is a gold mine. I'm going to be honest here. So I'm going to point off the first thing, which is actually the last thing in this chapter, which is Feyre lies. She lies what her name is. But we're going to keep that in mind, but we're going to actually kind of go from how the scene goes. So basically, page 232, Lucian is talking about the blight and about how all the courts, apart from what appears to be Night Court, from his information, is getting hit hard, especially Winter. And that is kind of the a mentioning again, but this time Feyre is there, that the blight is, well, it is slow, and it has been slow in doing things, is hitting the courts pretty hard right now. Still don't know what the blight is at this point of the story. And then page 234, Rhys shows up. In this, Rhys and Tamlin kind of go at each other, like, verbally, but mostly it's just Rhys, because Tamlin's kind of just taking it. In this scene, Feyre is glamored behind Lucian, who is standing in front of her, and Feyre is supposed to, like, I guess, look like the wall. Rhys finds out, and he gets really upset, right? In this scene, only two people call him a High Lord, and that's himself and Feyre. Now, Feyre in this, she's incorrect in this story. So we can't trust that just because she's saying something and she is calling him a High Lord, that doesn't necessarily mean that he is a High Lord. He is only calling himself that. No one else is. In this scene, Rhys calls Tamlin a High Lord, which is to point out that throughout this story, it has been made a point to call Tamlin a High Lord, but not Rhys. These three chapters, 24, 25, 26, we just get to see a lot of glamours and how they're kind of being used. Chapter 26, we also get to see that Rhys, his magic, he is able to go into people's minds. He does that, embarrasses her, but he also doesn't go into her mind to find her name. Oh, I forgot to mention that the mysterious guy is also Rhys. Yeah, yeah. So the mysterious guy that she thought was like potentially dangerous and people were scared of, and he said the monsters will let out of the cage till dawn. But that was him. Yes, 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 yes. So that charming guy, he's no longer charming. He's in fact mean, disrespectful, and likes to humiliate people. So which one is real? I don't know. All I know is I think he wanted to get with her that night at final night. And now they're here. Like how he had to have known there was a human there. So like it's interesting because it's like he knew a human was there, but he never said anything. Also, Lucian does lie of who she is. Feyre gives on page 241 a fake name, but the fake name is a character in the story that she knows. So it's like, why couldn't you have like picked an actual fake? If you were gonna give a fake name, why did you give a person in your religious name? Also, there was something called you don't lie about your name. Like you don't lie to these creatures, right? I don't know why I said something called. You don't lie to them. What I was told you can do is you can pick an object nearby and say, you may call me, and then you say whatever that object is. Try not to make it like extremely, visible, but like if you're looking around and you see a clover on the ground, you may call me Clover. But then you don't use that name again, right? So you don't have something that is actually attached to your real life name. That's chapter 26. Chapter 27, Tamlin sends her away. Feyre goes back to her home in chapter 28. Here is what I'll say. The Suriel told her if she crosses the wall, her and her family will die. And she does cross the wall. So that means that the Suriel is correct, the truth fairy is truthful, then that means her and her entire family will die. But if she doesn't die along with her entire family, then the truth fairy is not truthful because the treaty has not been broken. Tamlin says he is sending her and he will deal with the repercussions of the treaty, which means it's still active. Right. Still in chapter 28, Nesta is really suspicious of Feyre, but Nesta's really not like engaging with anyone. Elena's like, oh my gosh, we're so happy you're here, and Nesta's kind of like, right. Now I'm gonna give Feyre a mean point, and that is because Feyre is upset with her sisters for living in a glamour, and not coming for her. I will restate this. She is upset that her sisters are living in a glamour that a High Lord placed on them. So, okay, right. her sisters had their minds altered by a glamour. That a High Lord and a High Lord is not powerful, is power. So a power, also labeled a High Lord, put a glamour on them to think that she was with an aunt and safe. And she's upset with them for not. But also, her actions why she had to go in the first place. Like, she did something and there was repercussions and consequences to her own actions. And she's upset with her sisters for living in a glamour that they did not even consent to. Because Tamlin just put the glamour on. Right. Mean point. And again, Nessa's alone and by herself. She's kind of just like, right. Honestly, I'm not upset with Nessa's character at this point. Um, or at least just like, she just doesn't want to talk to, someone. She just doesn't want to talk to people. That's it. Like, that's not her being mean, that's just her not wanting to talk to someone. Like, if we are assuming that because Nesta does not want to talk to someone, that means Nesta is mean, why are these people entitled to her time and affection? Interesting. Right. Um, Chapter 29, Feyre lies so much in this chapter. And here's the thing, I am only giving her 4 lies. She says that lying has become really easy about like the things that, her and this aunt did. So I'm giving her 3 lies for lies that she says that she was saying. So even though I am taking it as she lied multiple times, and these are like the general lies, I am just going to count it as 1. Nesta, also, we learned, did not finish the season. Like, so, okay. If you're like confused, basically there's a social season and Nesta didn't finish it. And it's like, what? The person that is a snob, a person that loves a social life, and all this didn't do it. To me, that is a huge indicator that Feyre's idea of who her sister was and is completely wrong. Because we are now being shown her sister, and she's like, yeah, she didn't finish the season, and she doesn't like really talk to anyone. That's coming from Elaine. So the 4th lie I'm counting here, she said that she didn't find anyone. Like, there was no romantic interest when she was living off with the aunt. Yeah, so 4 lies in chapter 29, and we also get on page 257 that that Nesta didn't finish the social life season. Let's go on to chapter 30, when stuff goes down. In this chapter, we learn that, the reason why Nesta is so... Nesta broke the glamour from the High Lord. Nesta was able. And you might be like, well, then why didn't she come for Feyre? She tried. She tried, and she was unsuccessful. Because keep in mind, she was not hunting. She does not know those woods. She went to the person that Feyre sold those pelts to, and was like basically taping to the wall. She could not find the entrance, which later on we're gonna find out it was actually pretty like They took multiple days. I don't think Nesta could have survived that because she was not a hunter. She is not. So Nesta, the reason why she's not participating and is not really doing anything is because she's like, well, I can't go get my sister. I tried and I failed. At least my interpretation at this point is at least she can be with her other sister. But also, where is she gonna go? Well, where is she going to go? So it's the idea in my mind of how I'm interpreting it is what else is she going to do but to play the circus? And even then, she is not like talking to people. She's staying on her own. Like basically, she is taking the survival, right, and not really engaging in the social season, which I'm not going to be upset that she didn't want to be around these people that iced her out because she was poor. Right. But also very important here, page 264, Nesta pulls out the painting that Feyre made on the table. The painting that Feyre was so certain later on that she must have scraped off. Again, the characterization of Nesta is completely different, right? And we also get a conversation when she's at home of it being like, well, I knew you can go get more money. I wanted our dad to basically do something. She was trying to prove that their dad could, right? And was very beautiful with chapter 30 and also 31. Yes, and 31 is these two sisters are together. They're sharing beautiful moments. They're even like she's spending more time with Nesta than Elaine, and before this, she was spending a lot of time with Elaine. And it um, in this, she is like Faye was like, Thomas didn't deserve you, and Nesta is like, can you teach me to paint? Which is obviously something that Faye would like to do. So interest in her hobbies, um, and I will say one mean point for Nesta because she is mean to her dad because she's like he let the mom die and it's like okay well I don't think that's how that illness worked but I'm also going to give a mean point to Feyre because she calls her sister hateful and like she's doing it in a way that she's going to then compliment her by being basically by acknowledging that she thought her sister was hateful but like now who she is and I'm like no I'm still going to give you a mean point you still thought your sister was hateful and this is who your sister was. Like, I don't see this as, oh, whole character had a lot of character development. This was all happening over the course of this book, but we couldn't see it. It is, no, her dad was not going to come for her. Her sister would. And to me, that also is just a message of, I'm seeing this book and I'm seeing it as a story between sisters, a story between fighting for those you love and the bonds of sisters. And I think that is very beautiful. However, chapter 30, they're each going to get 1 point. Chapter 31, Feyre stays close to Nesta at the parties. This is why I mentioned at the very beginning that I don't think Nesta would do well, right? Because she speaks what she thinks. In this instance, she is not saying what she's thinking. She's keeping to herself. She's like, I don't like these fake people, so she's not engaging. Which means she is not perceived in a good light because she's not playing their game. A game that before this Feyre was playing in Prythian. But now she's like leaning on her sister. Feyre's leaning on Nesta. I think that's very beautiful. Page 269, everything crashes down. Claire's home is gone. Bond. And then Feyre realizes the fake name. And she kind of just like realizes it's gonna follow me. This is going to follow me here. And she kind of just like has a realization of that. That the blight is still there and potentially here recalling how Tamlin once said, like, yeah, it could still hold your family. She speaks to her father and both her sisters, and she's mostly speaking to Nesta here, and she says everything in this conversation because she does not know what the triggers are that Tamlin put in for in case they had a run. And Feyre leaves to go to Prythian to help Tamlin and his court with the support of the family. This time, it is not the dad that says don't come back. It's Nesta basically saying we don't need you here. And Feyre even recalls that if she did not have basically this time with Elaine, with Nesta, she would have thought that was her being mean, that Nesta being mean. But in this, she's recognizing that this is Nesta showing that she loves her. And I love this. I love that the sisterly bond, which some might say, this is not a recap. Why are you mentioning this? Because I think it's important for us to talk about the sisters, and also I just think it's very beautiful, and I want to talk about it. And since it's my channel and my deep dive, I get to. Chapter 32. Everyone's gone. Mostly everyone. She meets Alice, and she was like, yeah, I mean, she didn't let me out of the mountain. And we learn that Prythian now has a High Queen, and her name is Amarantha. And Tamlin is now under the mountain because the time in which they had to break a course that they referred to as the blight and Amarantha as the blight was over. That they had 49 years. And instead of having Feyre nearby to break a course, he sent her away because he loved her. And really, you may be a little bit confused, or you're like, you need a little bit more. In this chapter, we get the lore. Almost everything, which is 49 years prior, someone named Amarantha came to Prythian as basically, I think it's like a courtier or something like that, and 49 years prior, she tricked the High Lords and she stole their magic. So Amarantha has the power of all 7 High Lords. Now, Tamlin, she knew. She actually groomed him. And she was like, I want you to basically be with her. Right? But she was like, she wanted Tamlin to be with her. And Tamlin was like, no. No. Right. And she gets upset, and she basically, after, oh yeah, after Amarantha caused them to wear those masks after she stole the power. After that, she said the only way for that to be broken is if he found someone to pat her head and rub her tummy at the same time, hopping on one foot. I'm joking. Basically, Tamlin had to find someone that was a human that had hate in her heart so much that she would unalive a fairy, and then he had to make that human fall in love with him because Tamlin said that he would sooner be with a human, but also that human in this that to break the curse couldn't just be in love with him, but also this human had to say that they were in love with them boldly out loud before the 49 years were over. So basically, what Tamlin did from that point on was send his own men, turn them into wolves, send them over the wall, so that way hopefully a fairy, not a human girl would kill it with hate in their heart, but it was unsuccessful until one day, at the very beginning of the book, we have Feyre, who, I don't know, kills the wolf with hate in her heart because right before she does it, she gets very hateful. And then also in that cabin, she was like, oh yeah, I would have done it. And, hateful with that. Um, and so from that point on, the treaty needed to be met, but by that they meant because there was no treaty. Oh, hey, yeah, she now, to break this course, now, she, after doing all of that, has to then fall in love with him and say that Feyre loves Tamlin. Just say, I love you too, Tamlin, right? But also, here's the thing. She would have said that she loved him if she would have stayed instead of going home. I hope you enjoyed that. Um, so we have all of that just dumped on us. Um, Alice does not really like her because she's like, that's all you had to do. All you had to do, and you failed at that because you went home. Even though Tamlin sent her home. Also, I didn't mention that, like, they were kind of upset. Everyone was kind of upset with her for leaving. That's why. Um, Now, I'm going to mention something because I think it's very important for later on conversation. In this, they are talk. Okay, so basically, she's going to go in to Under the Mountain. And before she does this, um, and before she makes a decision, she is trying to figure out, like, um, can Amarantha be stopped, right? And in this, Alice tells her that he is stronger because he's a High Lord than Amarantha. However, what's mentioned before that is Amarantha is so powerful because she has all 7 powers of the High Lord in her. But, very important here, it is said that Amarantha, basically, she has them, but it's all sealed away within her. She cannot access them. Or if she can, it's very, 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 very small, basically, right? So, I'm going to point out that on this page, we have someone saying that Tamlin could stop Amarantha. However, he is weakened and Amarantha has more power because she has the power of the High Lords. It is very important that all of that context is said before Alice says he is the stronger or he is a High Lord, right? Very important. You won't know that until later on why I say that. But basically, and that was page 289. They both head to Under the Mountain. Now, basically, what Alice is doing is she's basically gathering supplies because Tamlin was able to make it so her 2 nephews are not under the mountain, so she's gonna take them and she's gonna run. Is basically what's happening here. But before that, chapter 33, Alice takes her to a gateway to on the mountain and gives her 3 very important rules that I'm going to mention here. Do not drink the wine. No, do no deals unless her life depends on it. And 3, do not trust her senses. They will betray her. Which, that last one is a reiteration from before, which is do not trust your senses because they will betray her. Alice then goes, they kind of leave on kind of decent terms. Chapter 34. We're going to have another lie here. Um, so Feyre is taken to the chamber, and she's like, I'm here for my High Lord because I love him. And they're like, it's too late for you to say that. You saying you love him is not going to break the course. Um, you had until a deadline and you couldn't meet it. But Amarantha, cartoon cutout villain, is just like, oh my gosh, you really got a human in love with you, Tamlin? Tamlin's not really looking at home. The reason is because that is explained later on by Lucian is he is not Tamlin does not want to give Amarantha any leverage or anything to actually halt Feyre. So if he acknowledges her, then one that does say that you can halt her to get to him. But also it does if he flinches or does something in a okay, basically, if Amarantha does something or says something, and Tamlin knows that will hurt her or will do something, and he reacts or he gets upset, then Amarantha can use that against Feyre because basically it's kind of confirmation. Anyways, in this though, Feyre is like, I love him. Let's bring him home. And they're like, no. Page 299, we have an implied, hey, you lied. I'm counting that as a called out for a lie because we see Cleo's body. And she's like, oh, so you won't Cleo. So I guess guess I was wrong. So I'm gonna say that's one lie call out. Page 301, let's get to the deal. So this is the next part of the book. I'm not going to really be talking about this next part of the book because it's not necessarily relevant that much to what we're looking for. Now, this deal is two things. One, you can either complete 3 trials once a month, and if she does that, then she will release Tamlin and the Coit, and Spring Coit, basically. Tamlin will have basically all of his magic again. Um, or Feyre can solve a riddle and it will immediately, but not maybe, it will instantly give Tamlin his magic back and Spring Coit will be freed. But it's only for Spring Coit, right? So even though Alice was like, don't do it, don't do that, she was like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this deal. And so a deal is made, done. Chapter 35, Lucian talks to Feyre and heals her because she had injuries after that because Amarantha said, welcome her to my court. And so in that, we get something, and I'm just going to say this, and then you can go over to the book talk to get my actual, because I ranted so much about it. We get Lucian talking about the war hero, Jorian. Also, I forgot to mention Alice in page 32 mentions how Amarantha had a sister, Cynthia, and she fell in love with a human named Jorian. And Lucian is now saying again, oh yeah, I mean Jorian, I mean with all that, he doesn't like Jorian and doesn't kind of support him. Feyre is then brought back to the court and they're like, tell me your name. And Feyre's like, I'm not telling you. And then she ends up telling her the name. And we get the riddle. Before that, I will mention Amarantha does not call Rhys a High Lord. He is only called Rhys, right? The riddle was given. This riddle, again, that's going to be in the book talk because I talked a lot about it. I talked a lot about it. I am curious how many people, though, knew what it was before it was revealed. Chapter 36. First trial is done, however, she's really injured. Lucian helps her during that trial. Chapter 37, she needs to be healed, but Lucian is not coming for whatever reason. Rhys comes in and he's like, Lucian's not coming. Basically, they strike a deal after he kind of like coerces her to like do it, or at least she's not in the right state of mind to be really thinking about the world very clearly. 1 week from out of every month for the rest of her life, she will have to now spend with Rhys. Um, and he gives her a permanent tattoo that she did not consent to. In it, with that bargain, he heals her. Um, Chapter 28, let's go straight to it. This is when we learn some High Lord magic, allegedly. If we are assuming he's a High Lord, because there was no one there to correct him. So, if it is or is not true, right? So, she's being forced to do chores. He puts a stop to at the end of the chapter. Anyways, Rhys, we learn he cannot shapeshift. That is Tamlin's thing. But he's able to do mind stuff. So allegedly what is being said is the Night Court's High Lord should be able to do a lot of mind magic if he is a High Lord, right? Tamlin, who is confirmed High Lord, has brute strength and shape-shifting abilities, because again, he can shape-shift other people, not just himself. Page 343, he says that he is unable to tell her the answer to the riddle, and they must obey Amarantha, including if she says stop breathing to them. Right? This is important because is this the power of a High Lord? So we're saying the High Lord's power is able to get them to do whatever they want with a command. And so, okay, so that means at any point, if a High Lord does not want the court to do something, they must do it. It's just one command, they have to do it. That is what we're saying here, or is he lying? Right? Because there's no one here to say if he's right or wrong. And if we don't trust him that he's the High Lord, what if he's lying about this too? I don't know. Right. Okay. Now, chapters 39 to 43 go to the yapping video. I'll discuss those there. Basically, second trial, Rhys helps her. I don't really talk about the second trial now, but stuff in between the trials I will talk about there. And then trial 3, that starts on page 43, well, is chapter 43. In which Tamlin is injured. That's the what I will give for those few chapters. We're going to go immediately to chapter 44. In this, Feyre has completed all 3 trials, but Amarantha said, well, I never said I would instantaneously do it unless you've broke the riddle. Like, if you did the riddle, I would instantaneously return the magic, but I never said when I would. And then starts assaulting her. And people are saying Lyle to Amarantha. True. Amarantha, she's off the deep end. Rhys, page 400, tries to like physically stop her, but it's not working. My thought is like, why are you doing this? If this was never like, it feels like a stunt. It feels like a publicity statement because like, what physically can you do on a 1-to-1? Like, it seems to me the only way that it would have worked to go against Amarantha is to secretly do it. Potentially like poison. Anyways, so that's what Lucian is doing. That's what Rhys is doing. But Tamlin, he is healing because he got very critically injured. Right? He's healing too slow. And Tamlin in this goes assumingly because he does start talking. I cannot, I cannot physically stop her. Maybe I can convince her. He's trying to talk her down. It is not working. Right before the end of the chapter, Faye was like, "Love, that's the answer to the riddle. Love." Breaks immediately because that's the right answer. That's why I'm like, how many people knew immediately what that was? The first time I read it, I immediately knew, like before she even finished it. It's like, nah. But yeah, it was. Um, Chapter 45. Tamlin gets his magic back immediately. She says, wait, because whole expression is, the game is done. Let me try to talk my way out of it. Nope. Which I'm like, why? Like, sure, we don't know if she's going to tell the truth. We don't know if she's going to lie. What was the point of getting him so wild up? Because she immediately knew. She immediately knew. Which means if Tamlin could overpower her, and that was the entire point of this last part, if Tamlin could do that, because he's a High Lord, and she can't fully access it, then why not ask her questions? That doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Even if she lied, the King of Highborn was still trying to get her to do stuff, right? Also, Alice says that people have been calling her the Deceiver, which goes back to the Sorial. So in this, Feyre is not there. Her body is. This is through the eyes of Lucien, or Lucien, not Lucien. This is of the eyes of Rhys. It's not his point of view. Feyre is there. It's just connected to Rhysand, right? Basically, each High Lord, apart from Rhys, drops something glistening on her or to her. But then Rhys approaches and drops what's described as her soul. Page 466. No, 406. So I'm like, why did he have a part of her soul? Why is it that everyone had a different description of what they gave her? Oh, she's now fairy. Chapter 46. But I'm like, that's very interesting. He wanted everything to be resolved instant. Also, he mentioned, like, when he's doing the deal, he's like, well, basically, right, if Tamlin gets his magic back, he can, do basically he literally just did. And then everyone will be free. So that was everyone's intentions. That was everyone's hopes and desires. It's even mentioned before she goes into the third trial. Everyone's like, oh, quiet. Like they're wanting her to succeed because they actually realize that she can actually do it. Right. Um, Anyways, chapter 46, the last chapter. So there was a High Lord meeting. It's not really said what's said in there, but I'm like, you could have questioned her, but anyways, um, she's now fairy because they're like, that was the only way to save her. So far the Sorial is correct. If the rest of her family goes, which that is what the Sorial is now saying, so far the Sorial was right. That her life, she did. Because now she's not human anymore. So, in the next books, her family should join her as well. Maybe not as a fairy, but if the story was correct. There is a conversation between Rhys and Feyre, and I'm not going to be able to really talk about my thoughts and questions about it until we get into Aquamath. But basically, they'll yapping, they'll talking, and at the very end of it, right? Because he's like, "Oh, you're gonna be with me for a week every month, the rest of your life." At the very end of it, like he starts like to fly off. Oh yeah, he has wings. Um, you're probably say that. Um, so he's about to fly off. He stumbles, his nose flails, eyes wide. Like he's doing physical things, and she's like, something is different. What's happening here?" He doesn't say anything, and before she does, like he's gone. So we don't know why there was that kind of reaction. And then 416, Tamlin and Feyre, they go back to Springport. I feel like we did in this get not a definition of what a High Lord is. Yes, they are a power, but what does that mean? They are a power, but how are they chosen? Like we have an introduction, and that's all we have in book one. And I knew book one was not going to answer these questions. That's gonna come later in other books. Hi, the mating bond. It's someone's equal. Okay, you will see later. Like, okay. Um, let's talk about the lie counter. Every time that I considered something a lie, and I said in the time at home, when she was in her new home in the manor, um, how I counted those. Feyre in this book lies 17 times. Feyre is called out for lies 4 times, and only one time Tamlin explicitly used the word liar. Feyre is mean 18 times. Cressida's rude 3 times. Again, I kind of stopped doing that one. I might not do it for the other one, but I'm pretty sure Nesta's in the next one, but I'm not quite sure on that, so I don't know. Take it out if that is like I want to do that for Nesta and Elaine. I just forgot to do it with this one. And Nesta was mean 8 times in this one. So the mean sister, well, yes, I understand was not mean the entire, but was not there the entire book. But we did have a few chapters with her, and she was only mean 8 times, which is a lot. But like, if you have a sister, if you have an older sister, I don't need to say more than that. Um, so that's the trackle. We still don't know what a High Lord is, and I can't say if Rhys is a High Lord without knowing what a High Lord is. I don't think in this book we have proof that he is a High Lord. We have proof that Tamlin's a High Lord. So we can kind of see Tamlin's magic scale and kind of go with that. But until I hear or get proof that Rhys is a High Lord, I'm not going to consider him one. Because I don't trust him. And in this book that I really didn't talk about that much, we have so many reasons not to trust him. Again, I would suggest you go to the yapping video for ACOTAR. I thought it was going to be a companion, but I might also just put it in the playlist for this because I think that it really just is part of it, just without actually being a part of it. Anyways, that is book one of ACOTAR. There's a lot of things I want to talk about and a lot of things that I put on the trackle that I can really only talk about with more books. Like this is really the first book in a series and it shows, but that is all I can say on this one book. If you're like, oh, wait, Cheyenne, I want more though. Like, when is the next one going to come out? Well, I am doing a very specific reading order, and I'm on Assassin's Blade in that order. That is the next book before I get to Aqua Math, second book in this deep dive. I'm doing that so I can learn the magic system because they're all connected. So, whew, I hope that you have enjoyed that, and goodbye.